Welcome to the next in the series of Word tutorial videos, and today we're going to be talking about essential modules for the Word Bible software. So let's go ahead and get started. The first thing we're going to be doing is I'm going to be giving you a list, and this is by request, this video of modules that I would consider essential for using in the Word Bible software. So we're going to be talking about a couple different things today. I'm going to be mentioning Bibles, and our Bibles are going to be split up into two different categories. We're going to be looking at modern translations, which will be more along the lines of more recent translations. And we're going to be looking at ancient texts, which would be your Greek and Hebrew and other texts that you might use to study the Bible with. We're also going to be discussing some essential commentaries, and as well I'm going to be dividing the commentaries up into two different categories. It's going to be general commentaries and exegetical commentaries, and I'll explain both of those as we get to them. And we're also going to be discussing different types of dictionaries for use in the Word Bible software. Now just keep in mind that all of these modules that I'm going to mention in this video today, all of them can be downloaded from either theword.net or wordmodules.com. This video will be posted on our blog, alongfortruth.blogspot.com. So if you need to find the website again to download the modules, you can just go there and look at them. So let's go ahead and get started. First thing we're going to be talking about are general types of Bibles. And again, these are more of your modern translations with the exception of one that I have in here. First of all, the ESV, which is the English Standard Translation. That's a newer one. It's come out just within the last decade or so, I believe it has been, maybe even sooner than that. But it's a great translation. It attempts to keep the literal translation while still maintaining a smooth English reading. So I would definitely recommend to have the ESV. That is a free download. Also the HCSB, which is the Holman Christian Standard Bible. Now that is a Southern Baptist translation. And I would recommend to get a few, at least no less than 4 of your modern translations. That way you can use them in compare mode and you can kind of see how they translate different from each other. Then also I would get the KJV plus the TVM. Now that TVM stands for Tense, Voice, and Mood. Now what this is this is the King James Version Bible, not just with a Strong's number, but also with a tense, voice, and mood tagged to each verb that's in the Bible. And this also includes the Old Testament. Now if you're like me, your Hebrew is not all that great, so I need a lot of help in that area. And the Tense Voice Mood Bible allows me to be able to look at those verbs which are call perfect indicatives or call imperfects or whatever you want to call them. But it helps a lot to have that in the Old Testament. And the Tense Voice and Mood does include both the Old Testament and New Testament ones. And then finally, I would recommend the NET, the New English Translation. Now I have this mainly for the notes. The NET is great for notes. They have a lot of great critical, what they call textual notes in there to explain why they've translated certain words and phrases the way they have. Now be warned that the free version that comes with the Word is only a limited net notes. If you want the full version, then I would recommend that you go ahead and upgrade or purchase that module. I do own a copy of the full net notes, not in the Word modules, in another program that I have, but the notes to me are very well worth it. Now keep in mind too that the King James Version, the regular standard King James with Strong's, and the HCSB are included in your initial download. And I also believe the NET is as well. I don't know about the NET notes, but I do know the NET, I believe, is included in the initial download. So if you've initially downloaded the Word Bible software program, then you probably already have those in there. Some of the other ones you're going to have to find yourself, such as the ESV. I believe they have the ISV as well, the International Standard Version. They do have the NIV, NASB. Those are modules that have to be unlocked. But again, I would recommend at least 4 English General Bibles for a comparison. Now let's move on to ancient texts. And again, ancient texts are those that are Greek and Hebrew or Latin or anything other that can help you go back to the original languages. Now, there's Old and New Testaments. So starting with the Old Testament, I would recommend mainly one, and that is the HISB. That's the Hebrew. It's called the Hebrew Interpolated Study Bible. Now, this is a great Hebrew Bible. A couple features of it that I really like. It gives you the ability to toggle the English on and off using the I key. And it also gives you the ability to look at the text dividers of prefixes and suffixes using the M key. Now, if you don't know a whole lot about Hebrew, which I don't, Hebrew often will add things like prepositions to the beginning of a word. However, they're attached right directly to the word, and sometimes you may have a trouble, unless you really know Hebrew, distinguishing what is a prefix and what is the actual word. Well, the M key allows you to see the prefixes and suffixes of those words by placing a dot right in the middle of it. So it's great help if you don't know Hebrew. There's also the Aleppo Codex. Now, a warning about the Aleppo Codex. The Aleppo Codex is not tagged. In other words, it doesn't have any Strong's numbers associated with it. It is just a plain, strict Hebrew Bible. If you do not know Hebrew, I would not recommend getting the Aleppo Codex. In fact, when I downloaded it, I did not know it was tagged originally, and I ended up deleting it, again, because my Hebrew was not all that up to par. And then there's also what's called the WLC, the West Leningrad Codex. Now, if you already have the HISB, then you don't need the West Leningrad Codex, because the HISB is the West Leningrad Codex tagged. So if you download the HISB, that should really be the only actual Hebrew Bible you will need for studying in the Word, unless you just want to download another Bible, just for the heck of another Hebrew Bible. So the only one for the Old Testament I would recommend is the HISB. Now, as far as the New Testament is concerned, there's one great one again. It's called the TRI, the Textus Receptus Interlinear. This has the exact same abilities as the HISB. It gives you the ability to turn on and off the English and the morphology by using the I and the M keys. And then I would recommend at least one other tagged Greek text. There are several of them on the Word site or on wordmodules.com. I would recommend at least getting one other one, just for comparison. If you want to get a couple, you can do that too. Now, as far as commentary goes, remember at the beginning we talked about general commentaries and we talked about exegetical commentaries. My recommendations for general commentaries, and again, it was kind of hard to decide because there are a lot of good ones. But my recommendations would be to get something like John Gill, Albert Barnes, which are some good commentaries, Jamieson, Fawcett, and Brown, which is another good commentary, Colin Delitzsch, which deals with the Old Testament only. So very helpful when you're studying the Old Testament. I use Colin Delitzsch quite a bit when I was preaching, or while we're still preaching through the book of Judges. I'm using that quite a bit. And then I would get New Testament Introductions and Outlines by Dan Wallace. Dan Wallace, of course, is a renowned Greek scholar who's been teaching New Testament Greek for 30 plus years. He is also, I believe, the head of the Center for the Study of New Testament Manuscripts, which is an organization dedicated to preserving and digitally the New Testament papyruses and codexes. But that is a free download. I believe that one can be downloaded at wordmodules.com, I believe. But that is a great, great help when you begin to study the New Testament. Now, as far as exegetical commentaries go, remember at the beginning we said there were general commentaries, there were exegetical commentaries. Something to keep in mind about exegetical commentaries. Exegetical commentaries deal mainly with the original, that is the Greek and Hebrew texts. However, most of the ones you're going to find are going to be for the New Testament. There are a couple for the Old Testament as well, but most of them are going to be for the New Testament. Even if you don't know Greek, I would get them. I would invest in a few of them. Well, I say invest, they're free. But I would download a few of them because, again, they can be really great help. And as you're reading these commentaries, if you don't understand some of the lingo, hey, just do what everybody does. Google it. Now, don't depend on Google completely, but Google what the lingo is, and you'll be able to find some sites that will explain what types of verbs mean and how they interact with each other in syntax and grammar. So my recommendations in this category would be Henry Alford, which is the Greek New Testament. That's 4 volumes. I would get the Cambridge Bible for Schools and Colleges. That is a 54-volume set, and it includes both the Old and New Testaments. Now, word of warning, the Cambridge is a little bit more liberal, has a little bit more liberal slants to it. However, it can still be good research and a good tool to use. Then there's also the Cambridge Greek and New Testament, which is for the New Testament only. And then definitely download the ICC-NT, the International Critical Commentary of the New Testament. That is a multi-volume set covering nearly every book in the New Testament. A great help. These are things that have been a help for me as well. And then finally, the Expositor's Greek New Testament, which was edited by William Nicol, who was again renowned on his own. That's a 5-volume set. And again, all of these, everything I'm putting up here for these modules are absolutely free. Absolutely free. Now, I'll move on to dictionaries very quickly. Dictionaries, we also have to remember, anytime you want a lexicon, you have to remember that all lexicons are going to be classified under dictionaries. So if you're looking for a specific lexicon, always look under dictionaries. With that said, I recommend a few good Bible dictionaries, which would be Easton. Some of these you've probably already heard of. I recommend Hitchcock's Bible Names. Fawcett's Dictionary. Now, Fawcett is different than Jamieson, Fawcett, and Brown. This is a regular standard dictionary with regular dictionary articles like you would expect to find in a dictionary. And of course, my favorite has always been the ISBE, the International Standard Bible Encyclopedia. It's very thorough. It's still somewhat of a standard among Bible scholars today. Now, as far as lexicons go, I would recommend just a couple of them to you. I would recommend the Liddell Scott Dictionary of Classical Greek, as well as the MLSJ, the Liddell Scott Intermediate Greek Lexicon. These lexicons cover the usage of Greek words, not just in the New Testament, but outside of the New Testament as well. And there's a little resource that I actually didn't put in this that's actually, I believe it's called New Testament Resources, and it's that Word Modules download. And what it does is it hyperlinks all of the references in Liddell Scott Jones and the Liddell Scott Intermediate to the actual things that are mentioned in there. For example, Plato, it will link you to a actual description and an actual piece of that manuscript that's being referred to. So it's actually very, very helpful to have those lexicons. Then also I would recommend Thayer's, which is New Testament Greek words. I would recommend the AHLB, the Ancient Hebrew Lexicon of the Bible. This takes the BDB, which is Brown Driver Briggs, to a little bit different level. It kind of discusses more of the actual morphologies of the word. So it's a good dictionary. Then there's some other language helps that I would recommend. Robertson Word Pictures, Vincent's Word Studies, Trench's Synonyms, which Trench is the New Testament, and then as well as Girdlestone's Old Testament Synonyms. So there you have it, folks. There's my list of Bibles, commentaries, and dictionaries that I consider essential for the Word Bible software. Again, this is not really an exhaustive list. You can go to thewordmodules.com or theword.net, and you can just browse through and kind of pick what you want. I would consider these essentials for my study. Your study needs may be a little bit different based upon what you're studying now or what